This past week, I ordered takeout food at a Chinese restaurant and 2 days later at a Thai restaurant. Both were small places. At both restaurants, on each occasion, I was greeted by the owner's family members who presented me with a bag filled with my order and the bill, which I paid with a credit card. On each bill, I put an ample amount in the tip line and added it to the total amount. Why do that, though? After all, a tip is usually for a service, and they had just handed me a bag of food and containers. Why give a tip at all? Giving more than expected under such circumstances is an act of generosity, an act of appreciation. Both restaurants are mom-and-pop places. Their continued existence does not depend upon a national office, but on the labor of the people, the families involved. My wife and I used to go to the Chinese restaurant when we were dating. The proprietor still gives candy to my son when he comes with me to pick up our takeout order. I'm aware that, in a small way, my life would be more complicated if that restaurant were not there. Our family rarely eats fast food, and I am a vegetarian. So this restaurant provides something of significance on a weeknight when we are too tired to cook. For those reasons, I give a tip. I endeavor to be generous. Generosity is a virtue for Unitarian Universalists. Other religious traditions have virtues. I am unsure if any other religious tradition has elevated generosity to its statement of identity as the Unitarian Universalist Association did recently. It is an important spiritual value to our communities. Each Sunday, we in this congregation practice generosity spiritually by giving most of our offering to support causes that benefit groups nationally, locally, and internationally. We do so because our congregation recognizes that we are not separate from the world, but active participants in healing the world, in envisioning a better world than the one we currently know. Our offering is an act of generosity that connects us with other people who share our hope and practice love through many different ways. Our generosity connects us with people who are in need, who are boldly advocating for change, who are supporting those who are struggling in a society in which they are considered by some work groups to be unworthy. We give generously, not just because of the Unitarian Universalist Association's values, but because we must encourage communities and organizations that further this congregation's mission. The Unitarian Universalist Church of the Lehigh Valley's mission is as follows. We, the members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Lehigh Valley, and it's a little bit dated at this point, in accordance with the UUA principles and purposes, set before ourselves the following mission: awakening spirit, connecting in kindness, helping to heal the world. Unitarian Universalists are often theologically vague. A friend's wife refers to us as the Church of Sacred Ambiguity. We are hesitant to use religious language that is not inclusive of the many different sources from which members and friends of this Unitarian Universalist congregation draw. People who attend Unitarian Universalist churches include humanists, neo-pagans, Buddhists, Jews, liberal Christians, theists, Taoists, Hindus, religious naturalists, atheists, agnostics, Taoists, New Thought, and folks who either resist labels or don't have a clue, but keep coming back. Every recitation like this leaves out something because it is nearly impossible to name all the spiritual sources of people in our movement. We also consider ideas from the realms of history, social ethics, science, and other disciplines. We meditate, we pray, we contemplate, we sing, we speak, we chant, we listen, we light candles, we share. Even if we think that we are sure about our own theology, we are open to exploring the world as others experience it. Most Unitarian Universalists are probably drawing from more than one theological stance. We are willing to experience spirituality in ways that might open us up to new insights, new possibilities. One of the advantages of being a Unitarian Universalist is that one can encounter spirituality without the necessity of believing what has been presented. We are explorers, even if we have found something that provides meaning or grounding. We are often willing to explore something else. Awakening spirit might mean that kind of exploration. It might also mean opening ourselves to a new way of being, a new way of existing. If one's spirit is awakened, then one's behavior or perception might be changed. For example, our perception of human nature has changed since I have been a Unitarian Universalist for 35 years. I joined a church then in which some thought that it was strange that other Unitarian Universalist churches were welcoming to gays and lesbians. Don't even mention bisexuals and transgender. They didn't even know what that was, probably. 10 years later, the perception had changed, and the majority of Unitarian Universalist churches were officially welcoming to gays and lesbians, transgender people, bisexuals, and others. We might think of this as a matter of social justice, but it was a spiritual awakening as well. Our hearts changed. Our openness to the new fosters awakening spirit. The mission of our congregation also calls us to connect in kindness, recognizing that awakening spirit calls us to interact with each other, indeed with everyone. The mission encourages us to approach each other in a kindly way. That seems so easy, but it isn't always so. It is telling in this that the renowned Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh describes faith on one occasion as connection. In his religious context, faith is connection with the universe, with everyone. As the singer Cher sings, the Buddhist connection is love that is not only specific to a person, it is a love song for everyone. Connection is like that. It encourages us to kindness to those we know and those we do not know. Our responses to connection in this congregation, the way that we think we want to be together in this community and beyond, are formed by kindness. Through this, we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person and life on this planet, and we are of generous spirit. That takes us to the third point of this congregation's mission, helping to heal the world. One of the aspects of most Unitarian Universalist congregations that I have served is the belief that our faith, our connection to each other and to the larger community, and our spiritual sources that cross boundaries in a way that no other religious movement probably does, also makes us aware of the suffering in the world and encourages us to alleviate that suffering to the best of our ability. Most Unitarian Universalist congregations do this through worship, study, activism, and service. Sometimes this means that the congregations like ours join with other groups in a shared effort. I think that most of the people who join Unitarian Universalist congregations are looking for a community of seekers who believe that religion must be relevant to the world, that the religious life calls individuals to pursue the larger issues of our society and the natural world. We are taken with healing the world in material ways, and also with the advocacy for justice. In these times, we know that many of the issues we have worked long for may be at risk. There is a movement in our society to curtail the rights of women in too many ways to mention. It feels like some want a war on women. There is movement to remove legal protections for persons who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and have other sexual or gender non-conforming identities. As a congregation, we are a welcoming congregation, committed to encouraging our larger society to affirm the rights of sexual and gender non-conforming minorities, to value their inherent worth and dignity through advocacy for justice, and I believe ultimately for kindness. We know that some of those in power want to roll back environmental protections with legislation, even as it is obvious that climate change is happening with potentially cataclysmic results. This year, where I live in southern New Jersey, went through 3 months with only a slight trace of rain for the first time in known history. This year, Asheville, North Carolina, a city in the Appalachian Mountains, hundreds of miles from the coastline, was devastated in parts by a hurricane. It was the first time, to our knowledge, that places in the Appalachians were hit by storms normally associated with locations near the ocean. My mother lives in northeast Georgia. All summer long and even into the autumn, the temperatures where she lives have been the same as where I live in southern New Jersey. Remarkably, sometimes it was even cooler in Georgia than it was in New Jersey. In these insane times, this congregation will continue to speak for human rights, the evidence of science over superstition or ignorance, the role of immigrants in our society, human dignity, the right of women, and many, many other issues. We will advocate for peace over empire, cooperation rather than coercion. We know that a storm is coming. It feels overwhelming even to hear the plans that those about to take power have for our nation and our world. Sometimes it is difficult to find a way to disagree because the opposing point of view has neither evidence nor basis in reality. I cannot promise that this congregation or even our larger religious movement can be an antidote to the madness that we are likely to experience on a daily basis for the foreseeable future. I can promise that we will be a haven, a religious community that cares about people and the earth. We will be a centering place for the common good. We will speak against prejudice. You will need this congregation this coming year. You will need to be strengthened by this church's mission. You will hear words of hope here that might not be spoken in other places. You will find peace here when chaos has taken hold of so many aspects of life. You will find joy at times in the face of despair. You will need just to be with people who are fairly reasonable and very caring. I won't say that we're always reasonable. I genuinely hope that this religious community and the Lehigh Valley will ground you spiritually. I hope that this church gives you the strength to face whatever comes, courage to confront that which causes harm, and wisdom that will remind you of the enduring truth that human nature is capable of compassion. Because we are. Unitarian Universalists have voted in generosity as one of our values. Generosity is defined by one source as showing a readiness to give more of something as money or time that is strictly necessary or expected. It is also defined by the same source as showing kindness to others. In a sense, in supporting this congregation, you are supporting with your money or time, and you are also showing kindness to others. Generosity is a response to gratitude. Generosity is also a response to hope. This congregation probably evokes both feelings, gratitude and hope, from us. This is a religious community that is unlike any other in this area, and it is dependent upon the generosity of its members and friends for its existence and prosperity. This congregation is also a community of support. This is something we do very powerfully here. In the next year, you may enter these doors or tune in by Zoom with your heart heavy with concerns. Perhaps you have felt alone with things that have burdened your spirit. You will be in this moment, and something in this room will change your heart. Maybe it will be the topic at the breakfast forum. Maybe it will be the face of someone you know or do not know who smiled at you. Maybe it will be music by the choir or a hymn that touched you through comforting words or beautiful sounds. Maybe it will be a sermon that spoke to you. Maybe it will be someone sharing a joy or sorrow that connected with you in some way. Maybe it will be your sharing of your concern that helped. Maybe it will be a child departing to the religious education program. Maybe it will be the conversation after the service or the chat on the Zoom. Maybe it will just be about sitting in a room of people who are friendly and share some of your perspective. Maybe it will be all of these things or something else. The truth is, on that day, even if it be only a brief moment, you will feel like the weight you're carrying is a little bit lighter. If nothing else, the memory of that experience will be something worthwhile to help you carry on. And that is part of what we do as a congregation. We give you strength to carry on. Today, as Tom and the Stewardship Committee has pointed out, is the start of the church's pledge drive. I hope that a generous spirit is present with us, founded on gratitude and hope. The Lehigh Valley needs a strong Unitarian Universalist presence. May your generous support provide strength and encourage this congregation's mission for ourselves, this area, and for our posterity. So be it. Blessed be. Amen.